Hey guys, so the other day I asked you to tell me what your biggest reading challenges were. I took all the answers that you guys gave me, I put them together in a list, kind of made sense in my mind, and today I want to give you some tips on how to deal with those. So the first thing that kind of came up was just this idea of getting started. And so I got comments like, getting started was one of the comments. Another one was, I'm incredibly lazy. It's just that the actual starting of it is hard. And the thing with this, what has helped me so much and what's helped other people that I know is you really have to switch your mindset, because for whatever reason with reading, we think that it should be easy. And if it's not easy, it's just because I'm not a reader or whatever, right? But the way that I want you to think about this is that reading is to your mind what working out is to your body. And so a lot of people are very familiar with the idea of working out and this idea that like it's not going to be easy, and you get to a point where you want to work out, but when you start out working out, nobody wants to work out and it's hard and it's really difficult to like move into. But a lot of times we're able to push through that in the physical sense of working out our body because we understand that that's what's supposed to happen, and our expectation is that that is what's going to happen. For whatever reason, when it comes to reading, we think that, oh, you're a reader and I'm not a reader. And so when I go to like sit down and try to read, I expect that if I'm going to be a reader, if I am a reader, like internally in my deepest soul, if I'm a reader, it'll be easy when I sit down and read. And the fact is it won't, no matter what. When you start out, it's difficult. And when you're building the skill and the ability, it's difficult. So I want you to shift your mindset from expecting that it will be easy to expecting that it will be difficult, but that it will be worth it in the long run. So that will help dramatically. I know a bunch of people that have really kind of shifted their approach to reading just by making that one little change of just, instead of expecting, well, if I'm really a reader on the inside, then it'll just be magical and easy and fine, to like, no, this is work, but it's worth it. And once I build up enough of a practice at it, then I will get to where I want to do it. Everyone who's worked out consistently loves working out because they've worked out consistently. Everyone who reads consistently loves reading because they've read consistently. And this is not inherent in any of this. We're all sinful, fallen people who don't want to do the things that are good for us, right? So you got to change your mindset from that. It's not going to be something that's just wonderfully easy right off the bat. The second problem is really the biggest problem with basically everything in life, and that is other people. They get in the way of everything. Or I got a comment like this, being distracted by activities that take away time to read. And then one of my favorite ones was, people don't talk to me all day, and then as soon as I get 5 minutes to myself, I sit down to read, and all of a sudden everyone wants to talk. And I'm like, dude, I could not understand that more. Like, you're like, okay, no one said anything for like 20 minutes, so I guess I'm just going to like read. And then you crack open a book and somebody's like, oh, hey, did you hear? So yeah. Okay. So with this is where this is going to sound, just bear with me. These things are like the handiest things ever. Okay. Whether you agree with it or not, and I'm not saying I do, in general, we have kind of all learned like, oh, if someone has headphones on, we just kind of like, it's like, okay, if they're ignoring me, I'm like, hey man, and and then they didn't hear me, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine, whatever. He's listening to something, obviously, right? So, headphones are actually one of the biggest hacks for getting people to leave you alone when you're trying to read. And the trick of it is, most of the time, I don't even listen to anything when I have my headphones on. I just put headphones on as like an outside sign to the world of like, oh, hey, I'm busy with something. As if, holding a giant book up in my face is like not enough of a sign. Apparently people just don't get that. So get you some headphones. I don't care what kind they are. And if you do need to listen to something and you're trying to drown out stuff, I will say rain sounds, wonderful. Rain sounds are great to listen to for background noise. But even if you don't play anything, you just put them on and people are like, oh, you're busy. I'll back off, right? So try that. The other thing that I would say about this is that there's a reason why I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. And that's because in general, my children are not awake at 5 o'clock. So that's when I read. Okay, and then finally, the last one that I want to talk about is this idea of kind of a broad picture term of focus. So the comments that we got were, one was taking my time when reading a really large, dense novel. I always start out with the intentions of taking my time and savoring every page, but part of my brain is telling me to get a move on and finish as I have plenty of other novels to read on my list. right? And the second part of that one was I work full-time in a physical job and have two very young children, so rarely have the energy, right? That kind of goes back to that other people thing and how do we deal with that? But the other focus one that I want to talk about is a comment that said trying to stick to reading one book at a time, but ending up reading 3 or 4 at once. Then I get torn over which one I want to keep reading the most. And somebody else said I feel exactly the same, like I feel a competition to like rush and finish the book. And so that was kind of a big thing that really, really hit on people. And this is something that I struggle with a ton, right? In the midst of, reading Mortimer Adler's How to Read a Book and trying to slow my reading down and trying to savor more and all this, I have also had to come to an acceptance that for me, I read a ton and I read really fast. And trying to force myself to read in a way that doesn't align with how my brain works and how I want to consume the books that I read just makes me frustrated and makes me not like reading. So instead of trying to fight super hard to like change myself into something that I'm not, which is a slow reader, because I'm a fast reader, I have tried to shore up the best parts of what I actually do, which is reading really fast. So what that looks like for me and what I would suggest if you're kind of in the similar boat is I consistently read at least 3 books at a time. And the way that I kind of help myself with not getting torn up about which one am I going to read right now is even though I read 3 to 5-ish books at a time, I have my kind of standard times of when I'm going to read that type of a book. So what that looks like for me. Currently on my list right now, we're just going to go through what I'm reading. So I have Extraordinary by John Bevere. Every morning, I get up, I have a quiet time, and then I read a book that kind of goes along with my quiet time. So I'll read my Bible, and then I'll read a very specific spiritual development book, right? So right now, this is Extraordinary. And the thing with this book is I am fine with it taking a long time to get through this book, right? Generally, I'll only read 1 chapter of whatever this quiet time book is because I'm trying to read stuff that's really, really good and really deep, and I want to journal through it, and I want to take forever. And so I'll read this, but it might take me a month to read this tiny little book that my normal reading speed would take me 2 days, right? So I'm okay, and I know that it's fine that this is going to take a long time because I'm going to read other things in the midst of it. And I know that I only read this book in my quiet time. And if I miss the quiet time for that morning, then I don't read that book that day, So I know this is my quiet time book. This is when I'm reading this. After that, in my morning reading time is generally when I'll try to read because my mind's very, very active and very like going at it now. I've had my coffee. I'm ready to really kind of dig into some stuff. So that is when I will read my kind of primary nonfiction book right then. Whatever thing I'm working through to really try and learn, that's when I'm going to read that book. So right now, I'm reading this book called Falling Flat, which is a refutation of flat earth claims. I have a friend who has a friend who is a flat earth believer, and she was like, I don't know what to do with any of that. Can you help me? And I was like, I don't know. So I got a book about it, right? This is a very heady book. This is a very mathy, diagrammy, all the things book, right? But again, this is my morning nonfiction reading. So I'll read my Bible, I'll read my spiritual development book, and then I will read my primary nonfiction book. And I know that if that's the only reading of that I get done during the day, then I'm good, right? So after that, I will have my primary fiction book. Right now, I'm reading The Women by Kristen Hanna, and this is generally my nighttime book. I will read while Kim is getting ready for bed, while I'm getting ready for bed, I'm brushing my teeth, I'll read on my Kindle or whatever. And this is kind of my fun novel that I'm reading for whenever I'm reading, right? I will spice in other things throughout. I'm just about to start this Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. But those 3 are kind of my core pillars of my reading, right? So I'll have my spiritual book, I'll have my primary nonfiction book, and my primary fiction book. If I bring anything else in, it's going to be something like this that is a nonfiction book, but all of the chapters in here are like 1 to 2 pages. They're super, super short. And so I'll bring in something like this, or like a short story collection or something like that, that is a book that I can pick up at any point during the day and read one quick chapter and a couple quick thoughts of, and whatever. A lot of times when you get caught in the, I don't know which one to read and whatever, is because we're reading too much of similar things, right? So I would say that it's fine to read a lot of quantity at the same time, but you don't want it to be the same type of thing. Try to have very defined buckets for the types of books that you read at the same time. And then beyond that, try to assign those types to certain reading times in the day, right? So that you know, I primarily read my nonfiction book in the morning. I primarily read my novel in the evening. If you do that, it kind of starts to help take a bunch of the decision work out of it. So every time I sit down to read, I'm kind of more looking at, well, what point in the day is it? And that's going to determine what book I'm reading. Because if it's not my quiet time, I'm not reading my quiet time book pretty much ever at any other point during the day. And if it's bedtime, I'm not reading my nonfiction book because I don't need to stimulate my mind and have it trying to figure out a bunch of huge concepts. I need to just kind of relax and I just want to chill, right? So building some of those guideposts in for what you read and when you read it, I think will really help. I hope that was helpful. I tried to bust through those pretty quick, but that is kind of my system for dealing with this right now. I know these things are huge challenges, but like I say, I love equating reading to working out, where it's one of those things that if you can shift your mindset and you know that it is something that is very good for you, and the more you do it, the more you want to do it, but you expect it to be a little bit hard at the beginning, then you can start to push through that hard, and then you can get to the point where you can call yourself a reader, and then life just unlocks. Life unlocks for you when you're a reader. I will stand by that for forever. So hope you guys are having a great day. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.